powerful leadership is not about being mistakes proof. When you come open and you are being courageous and authentic about what you are going through, you're not only feel relieved, you are actually setting an example to all the people that you are leading. That's okay to talk about your challenges, your setbacks, whatever hinders you from moving forward. Because if you are not communicating that, how would you be ever able to solve that problem, right? So I would say that companies that do lead the way are those who enable healthy and open communication, even about stress and burnout.
Welcome to yourbrilliance.com. I'm your host, Amy Waterman. Do you ever feel burned out at work? Like maybe you love your job, but it just takes so much out of you. You want to be that kind of person who shows up and gives 110% every single day. But if you give 110% to work, what's left for you? A Gallup poll found that nearly 1 in 4 employees always or often feel burned out at work, and twice that number feel burned out occasionally. Burnout has some very real professional and personal costs. If you feel burned out at work, you're more likely to visit the emergency room, more likely to need sick days, and more likely to be searching for a different job. Our guest for today, Davida Ginter, wants to help. She is the founder of Be the Change and the co-founder and CEO of Enkindle Global, which helps changemakers and organizations in preventing burnout and cultivating well-being. She's a participatory leadership facilitator and nonviolent communication trainer and the author of the upcoming book, Burning Out Won't Get You There. Welcome, Davida.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy. Pleasure to be here today.
So I want to talk about your book. What inspired you to tackle burnout?
Good question. It all started from a very simple, innocent day-to-day conversation I had with a colleague and a friend. I'm working for years now with changemakers and leaders, supporting them in mobilizing social change. And when I was sitting with this friend, we were discussing the irony in witnessing so many of our colleagues and other friends experiencing major stress and burnout, and they almost forget to sustain themselves while they work towards sustainability. And so we talked about it, and we concluded with a sentence that we really don't have to suffer in order to reduce world suffering. And I thought, okay, that's a good title for an article. Maybe I can write an article about stress or burnout, specifically amongst change makers. And what happened is once I started exploring into that topic, I realized how big it is. It's huge. Burnout is cross-cultural, cross-sectoral. It's all over the world. I was curious to know if it's any difference from one country or continent to another. It's not. I have been talking with people from all 5 continents, and they shared these tough stories about burnout, but also interesting advice about how they overcame it. And from here to there, it became a book. It became my research and the topic that I'm passionate about, supporting people in preventing burnout. And this is what happened during that process.
So I love that you don't have to suffer to reduce world suffering. What a fantastic inspiration. There was another quote from you that I just loved. In a perfect world, people are doing meaningful work and feeling happy about it. But this is not a perfect world. So we often think that burnout is caused by, having a job that just stresses you out, that you don't like very much. It's really amazing that people can get burned out even doing something they love. So why are they getting burned out when they're following their passion?
Well, there are several reasons for that. Primarily, when people do a job they really like and passionate about and committed to this meaningful cause, I'm amongst these people, we tend to identify with the cause. We care so much about making an impact. But when you identify what you do, you sometimes forget to separate between you and your mission. So you're overtaking responsibility. You work longer hours to achieve that goal, this bold vision of making a social impact. So in some point, it's this commitment could be harmful because you can't put these boundaries of when job ends and personal life begin. But it's more than that. It's the question of, for example, how society puts a value on social, on work that is aimed at creating social impact. Because oftentimes it makes social impact and charity. And I don't think that people who are doing meaningful job towards sustainability, towards social change, should not get paid for that. This is not charity, this is our work. But when we don't get paid for that, we are financially unsustainable. This is another burden, another pressure to add to the system. There's also resistance to change. What we're really trying to do here, we're trying to, when we are, for example, fighting climate change. So we are basically telling people or organizations to change their behavior. Have you ever tried to tell someone to change their behavior? Right? They're like, push back. So this is really frustrating when it's not working well. So this is another stressor to this system here. So many reasons why change makers tend to burn out, even or especially when they do a job that they really like and connected to.
That I identify with every single one of those things you said. Another big stressor is if there is a cause that you really care about, like for me, it's empowering women, and then you get on the news and you read all this stuff, and it can feel like, I think this is the worst thing of all, it feels like all the work you do to try and put out a positive message in the world and try and shift culture slowly in a more positive direction is not helping. And if you add on top of that the fact that you've given up on your personal life for this, you're not getting paid. If you look at the hourly wage of most change makers, I think it's really low, because you're absolutely right. I wouldn't mind working on a weekend. If it's something I enjoy and I care about, I'll work any hours because I love what I do. As a result, when I look at the income versus the hours put in, you're getting paid less than an employee at some corporate company who's just, punching in numbers all day long. And all that stuff makes you feel like, instead of making an impact in the world, instead of having control, you're just a little, like a little thimble full of water in the ocean, and it's getting washed away.
Yeah, and then you start questioning yourself, your identity, the work that you do. Absolutely. I can strongly echo that. I mean, think of it, we're doing something here that we do not often see results on the short term. And, these are very high-hanging fruits. We don't see immediate outcomes. So it takes patience, but sometimes it could be really, really frustrating. What are we working so hard for? That feeling. So this is part of why we tend to burn out while we are doing this type of job.
So can we just solve the problem by forcing ourselves to take a week off, forcing ourselves to go on vacation, forcing ourselves to, all right, say at 6 o'clock every night, I'm putting the computer away, I'm putting work away. Is this the solution to burnout, just putting stricter boundaries on time? Or is this a bigger issue of how we approach our work-life relationship?
It's definitely bigger than that. And I don't tend to force anyone, including myself. So I think it's more about, I believe, it's more about finding a really healthy routine, both for life and work, and finding the right practices that suits you to integrate more well-being. That's the other side of burnout, cultivating well-being. So when people often ask me, and they do, so what's your solution to burnout, to prevent burnout? I say, well, there's no one solution. First of all, there isn't just one. And second, there's no one size fit for all. So people are different. And as a result, the practices that they would like to integrate are different. So if one person will need more mindfulness and maybe stillness and maybe some more quiet time or journaling in their life to cultivate well-being. Another person would be the exact opposite. And if they don't meet people at work, for example, their way to cultivate well-being will be to go out with friends and be dancing and playing loud music or do some kind of movement, anything to create that balance. For example, some people meditate and it's working well for them. To be honest, I don't meditate. I don't do that because I have tried and this is not working for me. And, you know, it's very trendy now. A lot of leaders meditate and I appreciate it, but it's just not the thing for me. So I have found my things. So no, there's no one solution to prevent burnout. There's no one recipe or a formula we can follow. But what we could all do is do this self-exploration, this inner inquiry. What serves us the best to feel better, to thrive at work and in life and with ourselves and our friends and family and so on?
So I'm going to have to ask a really hard question because this is what's coming to my head.
Please do.
How do we know when burnout is actually a problem? Like, I'm just thinking from my experience, I would rather keep pushing on how I'm doing it and not stop. And because I feel like I have just as much self-care in my life as I really have time for. And I want to push hard work-wise because I think that, you know, if I just maybe have one more year, it's always one more year. If I just have one more year where I put in that extra time, where I work those extra days, it's going to all come together and then I'm going to be able to relax and watch, you know, everything run itself. So how long can we keep pushing ourselves before it's a problem?
It's a great question. And I start by saying that stress is not necessarily a bad thing. It was actually proven that stress could drive us forward, could create adrenaline to pursue a goal. So this is great. However, when we don't manage stress well, then we are stepping into this problematic situation, either emotionally or physically. Sometimes it's both. And then it grows and it grows, and we get stressed out more and more until we hit the wall, until we are burnt out. So how do we know we are there? Well, there are different signs, of course. If we look at the medical definition, for example, by the World Health Organization, you can identify the signs of burnout by feeling exhausted, not just tired, but exhausted all the time. You have problems to get up in the morning. And you stay, by the way, late up at night because you can't fall asleep, because you feel this mind occupied all the time. But also you feel disengaged at work. You feel cynical or negative to what you do. So these different signs, both emotionally and physically. I would say from the experience, from all the stories have been shared with me, is that one very strong sign to burnout is when you are no longer recognize yourself in the process. You are no longer happy with who you are, how you are presented out there. So you're doing something that you feel is meaningful, but you feel no longer yourself. You're out of your skin, but not in a good way. Not as in I'm stepping out of my comfortable zone, but who am I? Why did I just get annoyed at someone? Why did I just yell when someone asked me something so simple? One of the women I have been interviewed for my book shared with me that when she hit the wall, when she got so busy at work and she was self-employed and she took on too many clients and she really got burned out, she found herself replying aggressively to every simple request. Someone would email her with a very, direct question, and she would say, "This person is trying to steal time from me." This is her exact quote. So I would say, when you feel uncomfortable with what you do, watch out that sign. This is a wake-up call for something, that something is wrong, and you need to at least check it out, if not prevent it and take proactive steps.
So let's say that you're noticing these signs in yourself, but you are a leader. Maybe you've got a startup, you've got a company, everybody's looking to you for motivation, for being the vision, the energy. And let's say you're a new company and you really are needed on the ground to do lots of this different stuff, and you're experiencing burnout. First of all, is it even safe to talk about it at work? Because you don't want everyone else knowing that you're losing it. And second of all, how much can your company afford to have you take care of yourself and step back? It just feels like if you experience burnout and you are the leader that people are looking forward to, you can't even afford to address it unless you do it privately at home or something.
That's a good question. And I'm afraid that too often we see that the response is not that positive, but not necessarily from the public, but more of old-fashioned conservative type of people and leaders who do not understand that sharing what you are experiencing is courageous, it's vulnerability, it's leadership, as opposed to bottling up your fears or your failures. I've interviewed a woman who, when she came out openly about her burnout, got called to a conversation with her boss, her female boss, who told her, "You can't do that. You're hurting yourself, the company, your future possibilities that someone will even hire you." And that felt so stressful for her. Not only she came openly about her burnout, she actually got hit on the head for saying that publicly. Luckily, she pursued her truth and she ended up leaving that company, found a much better position and a place where she could feel herself and openly share whatever she wants to. But that's the thing, that powerful leadership is not about being mistakes proof. When you come open and you are being courageous and authentic, but what you are going through, you're not only feel relieved, you are actually setting an example to all the people that you are leading. That's okay to talk about your challenges, your setbacks, whatever hinders you from moving forward. Because if you are not communicating that, how would you be ever able to solve that problem, right? So I would say that companies that do lead the way are those who enable healthy and open communication, even about stress and burnout. So talking about it is not weakness. It's being authentic and being real and being human, right? We are all humans, leaders, employees, we're humans.
So talk to me about your work with Enkindle Global.
So Enkindle Global, yeah, it's our relatively new organization. It's a nonprofit that is devoted to supporting people and organizations in preventing burnout. So what we do when we work with individuals, we invite them to workshops, events, seminars, and what we also like to call capacity circles. We are building these circles of people who could openly share what they are going through and seek for advice from the other members in the circle. And we tell them that's okay to share. We're building an atmosphere of trust there. And we're basically tapping into the collective wisdom of the group. We don't come with solutions. We are holding that container for people to engage in that topic of burnout or well-being, and both, ideally. And it's beautiful to see people come up with their solutions and their practices. So even if they came into the circle or this workshop thinking, we know nothing, we have no idea how to prevent burnout or how to move away from the situation we are caught in, suddenly realize they do have the solution, they do have some ideas, and if not, they can, build on the collective wisdom of the group, and they step out more empowered to start taking actionable steps. With organizations, we're basically trying to change the system, because we have noticed that when we talk with people, with individuals, they say, oh, this is all great, this is wonderful, and I can start journaling tomorrow, meditate today, go to this or that retreat, harness new connection, everything is great. But when I go to work, the organization don't care. So I'm going into the very same system that perpetuate the problem. So say, okay, we need to tap into the system. So we have started working with organizations, and the purpose is together with them, together with the management team, the leadership team, to craft a new vision that integrates well-being into the organizational well-being. And from there, we're breaking down that renewed vision into a strategic plan. How can we integrate well-being into the DNA of the company, into the core, into the everyday practices and routines? Because it has to go hand in hand. Individuals want to change, to have this mind shift, but also organizations or institutions that support them in that process.
Fantastic. And for those of you watching, if you want to get your copy of Burning Out Won't Get You There and learn more about this work, we have a link for you. Just go to yourbrilliance.org/burnout. That's yourbrilliance.org/burnout. Thank you so much, Davida, for coming on to the show. And I wondered if you had any last message you would like to leave our viewers with.
I would say that keep in mind that if you are going through a major stress or even approaching burnout, know that you're not alone. You're not alone, and you don't need to be isolated in that challenge. And you can actually turn this challenge into an opportunity to grow by talking about it, by finding connections, people that you trust, people who make you be the best version of yourself, that support you in overcoming stress and burnout. So this would be my advice: connect and talk about it. We are here to help, but I'm sure you have many friends who are willing to help if you just be open about it and be willing to share what's going on.
Thank you so much. And thank you out there for watching. We hope to see you again soon. Until then, let your brilliance shine.